In the world of luxury hotels, behind glittering chandeliers and marble corridors, some stories were never meant to see the light of day. One woman, wealthy, ambitious, and constantly on the move, checked in for what should have been just another night away from home. But that night would mark the end of her journey. A life of high society, powerful connections, and a love story that spiraled into something no one could have predicted. Behind the closed doors of an elegant suite, events unfolded that would shock Europe and leave investigators piecing together a scene more brutal than anyone could imagine. This is the case of Kinga Legg. Kinga Legg, born Kinga Wolf in May 1973, came from Tłoczenia Wielka, a small village near Kalisz in central Poland. Her father, Jan Wolf, was the former mayor of the nearby municipality of Opatowek, and her family ran a local farm specializing in tomatoes. Growing up in this rural environment, Kinga developed a strong work ethic and entrepreneurial spirit. She later transformed her family's farm into a successful international business, Vegex, which supplied tomatoes and vegetables to major retailers such as Tesco and McDonald's. In 1996, Kinga embarked on a new chapter of her life. She moved from Poland to England after marrying Peter Legg. Peter, a British civil servant from Preston, Lancashire, was born in 1963. The couple had met in 1995 during a town twinning ceremony between Preston and Opatowek. They married in Blackpool and lived together in England. Their marriage lasted only a few years, ending in separation around 1997. Sources suggest the split was due to differences in lifestyle and ambitions. Kinga was young, driven, and eager to expand her business and social life internationally, while Peter, a civil servant, led a more conventional and stable life. Their divergent priorities ultimately led to divorce. Kinga retained the surname Legg professionally even after the separation. At 25, Kinga refused to be disheartened and had no intention of returning to Poland. Instead, she poured all her energy into developing her family business, while also seeking new experiences and, above all, new connections. She took a position in the marketing department of a large wallpaper company, Crown Wallpapers. There she met Eric Kilby, 28 years her senior, the company's finance director and a multi-millionaire. Mr. Kilby began courting the young Pole, and his charm and sophistication quickly won her over. Eric first met Kinga around 2002. He left his wife of 13 years, Rosemary, the mother of his 2 sons, to be with her, and the couple soon moved in with the upper echelons of Cheshire society, attending black-tie events and living in a stylish apartment within a converted Victorian mansion in Wilmslow. From that moment, Kinga entered a new phase of her life, one of luxury, extravagance, and gala dinners attended by the cream of British society. She thrived in this world, and with Eric, they resembled a pair of film stars. Yet, for ambitious Kinga, being merely the partner of a wealthy man was never enough. Her dream remained to expand her family business. She threw herself into this goal, devising a detailed business plan. She wanted to export tomatoes grown near her hometown to the UK. The project required a major distribution hub, and though Kinga lacked the capital, Eric had it and believed in her vision. In 2003, Kinga officially took over the family business and, together with her brother, began managing it. Thanks to Eric's generous investment, warehouses, sorting facilities, and a vast greenhouse complex were built on more than 62 hectares just a few kilometres from her family home. Eric reportedly invested around £1.5 million in the project, which soon proved spectacularly successful. The modest family business grew rapidly, and Polish tomatoes began reaching British supermarkets and fast food chains abroad. Kinga and her brother now managed 200 employees, exporting over 300 million tomatoes annually. Success in business was mirrored by happiness in love. In 2006, 33-year-old Kinga married Eric. Their wedding took place in a Roman Catholic chapel near her hometown of Opatowek, Poland. Despite Kinga's glamour and wealth, the ceremony was modest, with only a small circle of friends and family invited to a 14th-century wooden church deep in the Polish woods. Friends recalled that, despite their age difference, the couple seemed perfect together. One friend said, "Kinga and Eric always appeared to be the perfect, happy couple." Their body language showed devotion. Eric wasn't as tall as Kinga, but she never made him feel small. He was proud to be a wealthy businessman with her on his arm, and she complimented him perfectly. Kinga had shown signs of erratic behaviour when drinking champagne with her previous boyfriend, Cheshire hairdressing and property tycoon Harry Gainan, and we'd all warned her. But she seemed to settle with Eric and was perfectly well behaved. Eric lavished her with fine gifts and designer clothes. At a black tie charity event, she wore Dolce & Gabbana and was voted best dressed. He bought her the outfit. They enjoyed the finest things in life: designer labels, fast cars, the best restaurants, and the top gatherings of the Cheshire set. Unfortunately, the idyll did not last. In 2008, at an evening gala in Monaco, Kinga met Ian Griffin, a former model and rugby player. Ian was a British businessman, born in the 1960s, known for running several small ventures, including tanning salons, with a mixed record of financial success. He wasted no time in charming the tall, blonde socialite, regaling her with tales of wealth, luxury cars, properties, and exotic travels. Kinga seemed captivated. She ignored warnings that Ian was, in truth, a bankrupt charlatan and compulsive liar, notorious for arrogance, vanity, and numerous affairs. Despite these warnings from family and friends, the 33-year-old fell deeply in love. Almost overnight, she left her husband Eric and moved in with Ian to a luxurious home in a prestigious area. The lover's life was extravagant, comfortable, but increasingly toxic, financed entirely by Kinga. Meanwhile, Ian proved unfaithful, sparking constant arguments. The once grounded and hard-working Kinga became insecure and obsessively jealous. She monitored him relentlessly, ultimately even investing in surveillance equipment that revealed the truth. Ian's infidelity became clear, and humiliated and betrayed, Kinga resolved to end the relationship. Yet Ian would not let go. He was unwilling to relinquish the lifestyle Kinga provided, having enjoyed everything he wanted with her. A life of luxury at her expense. Ian knew that Kinga still had feelings for him. That is why he proposed a trip to Paris, insisting that it would prove they were meant to be together. He begged for one last chance, and, reluctantly, Kinga agreed. It was 23rd May 2009 when Kinga checked into Hotel Le Bristol Paris, Suite 503. In 2009, Hotel Le Bristol Paris was one of the city's most luxurious and expensive hotels. While the exact rate for Suite 503 is not publicly documented, the hotel's five-star status meant that suite prices were undoubtedly premium. For context, in 2008, Hotel Plaza Athénée, another luxury Parisian hotel, charged around $2,400 per night for a deluxe suite. Le Bristol's rates would have been comparable, if not higher. As arranged, Ian joined Kinga the following day, 24th May, and they enjoyed each other's company. They explored the city, dined at the finest restaurants, and in the evening rented a yacht for a romantic cruise. Everything seemed perfect, and it appeared that the crisis in their relationship had been resolved. However, on the next day, 25th May, while dining together at a luxury restaurant, tension quickly rose. What began as slightly raised voices escalated into a full-blown argument. Kinga did not hold back, shouting sharp words even as strangers dined around them. At one point, Ian lost his temper. He stood up, smashed a glass against the wall near the heads of other diners, and stormed out. Kinga called after him, but he disappeared. Once he was gone, Kinga calmed herself, finished her meal, and returned to the suite, where Ian had already arrived earlier. What happened behind those closed doors remains unknown. One thing is certain. Over the following hours, hotel staff repeatedly delivered bottles of expensive alcohol to the room. The next day was Tuesday, the 26th of May. Early in the morning, a visibly hungover Ian appeared at the hotel reception, extended their stay by 2 days, and paid the bill in full. He also requested that under no circumstances should anyone disturb Kinga, as she was unwell and needed to rest. He even placed a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door before leaving in his silver Porsche. Hours later, in the evening, the hotel received a call from Kinga's brother Marek, who was in Poland. Concerned because he had been unable to contact his sister despite numerous attempts, he asked staff to check on her. The personnel explained that while they had been instructed not to disturb her, they could discreetly check given the unusual circumstances. The hotel manager and a housekeeper arrived at Suite 503. Upon opening the door, they froze in shock. The apartment was utterly ransacked. Antique chairs broken, curtains torn down, the television smashed, and in some areas, wallpaper stripped from the walls. The scene resembled a horror movie, made all the more gruesome by bloodstains on the beige carpet, trailing across the room and even up the walls. Calling out and searching, they found no one inside. But as they moved deeper, they noticed the door to the vast bathroom ajar. Peering in, they saw a sight they would never forget: a naked woman lying lifeless in the bathtub. Her skin was pale and cold, her head slumped forward, and her arms were unnaturally curled towards her chest. Kinga had been dead for several hours. Terrified, the staff immediately alerted the police. When the authorities arrived, they could not determine the exact time of death. The hotel rooms were soundproofed for maximum comfort and privacy, but this time that same soundproofing may have prevented any cries for help from being heard. The first examination of the body provided few clear answers. The visible injuries did not appear immediately fatal, leading investigators to initially consider a possible suicide, particularly given the numerous empty alcohol bottles and a box of sleeping tablets found nearby. However, forensic experts quickly confirmed that a third party had contributed to Kinga's death. Over 100 bruises were recorded on her body, concentrated around the chest, head, and neck. The cause of death was determined to be internal bleeding caused by severe blows to the head, neck, and back. The weapon used, according to investigators, was a decorative gilded lamp found in the room. One fact was undeniable: a crime had been committed in the hotel room, and it needed to be solved. The search for Ian, who had been with Kinga throughout her stay, was immediately launched. Police suspected his departure from the hotel was an attempted escape, and quickly began monitoring roads and border crossings. Unfortunately, after such a period, he could have been anywhere, complicating the investigation. Tension increased further as journalists began to gather outside the hotel. Sensational news broke. A wealthy and influential businesswoman had been found dead in one of Paris's most expensive hotels, likely the victim of murder. By the evening of 27th May, police had been searching for Ian for over 24 hours and finally received a lead. Around 5 hours' drive from Paris, in the UK, near Ian's family home, investigators discovered his abandoned Porsche. It appeared the suspect had travelled 500 miles and vanished without a trace. 2 days later, on the 29th of May, another lead emerged. Someone had used Kinga's credit card to withdraw a substantial sum from an ATM. Shortly after, Ian's ex-girlfriend contacted the police, reporting that Ian had called her claiming he had been attacked by Kinga and that her death was an accident. He even sent photos of a bruised face. Police immediately traced the calls and the ATM withdrawal. Evidence suggested that Ian was still in the vicinity of his family home and the abandoned car. Yet, despite intensive searches, he could not be located. Days passed, with no sign of him. A week after fleeing the hotel, the authorities finally saw a glimmer of a breakthrough. Witnesses came forward, reporting that around 30 miles from Ian's family home, near a forest, they had seen a dishevelled, unkempt man matching his description. This prompted an immediate, large-scale police operation. Dozens of officers, accompanied by tracking dogs, searched the woods. Shortly after, they discovered a collapsed tent, and inside lay the wanted man, curled up on the ground. Cuts were visible on his wrists, just as the witnesses had described. He was filthy, unshaven, and unresponsive to any words. Medics on the scene assessed his condition as stable, though he was in a deep state of depression. His flight had finally come to an end. 2 weeks later, on the 17th of June, Kinga's funeral took place in Poland. A crowd of more than 1,000 mourners attended, paying their final respects. With the ceremony over, her family hoped for justice, yet they could not have known that more disappointments lay ahead. Ian's poor mental health prevented him from standing trial or being extradited to France. Instead of a traditional jail cell, he was transferred to a private medical facility where his living conditions bore little resemblance to those of a typical homicide suspect. It seemed unlikely he would face any real consequences for his actions, and he spent the next 2 years in relative comfort. Eventually, the legal maneuvers of Ian's wealthy parents' lawyers came to an end. Even they were no match for the determined French authorities, who appointed their own experts. These professionals concluded, without a shadow of doubt, that Ian was mentally fit to stand trial and could leave England. Finally, in May 2011, Ian was handed over to the French authorities and placed in a notorious prison. But only briefly. His parents' legal team intervened once more, with remarkable effectiveness. The suspect, now formally accused of murder, was permitted to await trial anywhere in France. He rented a suite in a luxury Paris hotel, brought his former girlfriend there, and began giving interviews. He complained to journalists that prison conditions in France had been dreadful, claiming he had shared a cell with a murderer and rats. He insisted he had no intention of fleeing, asserting that he wished to clear his name and prove his innocence. The woman he had previously cheated on Kinga with, he now presented as his fiancée, planning a family, and he was notably forthcoming, except when questions concerned Kinga or that fateful night. On those matters, he offered only that he had harmed her not, and that, in time, everyone would believe him. Yet the trial, lasting a mere 5 days, did not begin until 2014, over 5 years after Kinga's death. Ian appeared in court with his now wife and mother of his child. He pleaded not guilty, claiming Kinga had been the aggressor, alleging that she attacked him and destroyed the room when he told her he wanted to leave. He testified that she struck him with her fists and used a stun gun, and in the chaos of demolishing the room, accidentally hit her head on a coffee table. Eventually, she supposedly calmed down, allowing him to bathe and sleep. When he awoke the next morning, he claimed he found her dead, cold, and blue, prompting him to flee in panic. Ian and his defense argued that the head injury caused a serious trauma, ultimately leading to her death. They also cited toxicology reports indicating the presence of alcohol and various medications in Kinga's system, including a blood-thinning drug, which they claimed could explain the severe and uncontrollable internal bleeding that caused her death. However, the prosecution presented overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Forensic examiners documented nearly 100 bruises on Kinga's body, 17 on her head and 33 on her chest, clear signs of a violent assault. Moreover, Ian's flight did not resemble the panicked escape of an innocent man, but the methodical evasion of someone seeking to avoid consequences. Despite Ian's defense and aggressive legal tactics, the court rejected his claims and found him guilty of Kinga's murder, sentencing him to 20 years' imprisonment. Her grieving family, present for the verdict, finally felt a measure of justice. The person who had taken their beloved Kinga had received his due. Yet the story did not end there. The defense appealed, and the higher court reduced his sentence from 20 to 14 years, leaving Kinga's family bitterly disappointed. Less than 2 years later, the case resurfaced in the media, with journalists calling Kinga's relatives to ask how they felt that Ian was once again a free man. The family, shocked, immediately contacted lawyers who confirmed the truth. Due to poor health and a court decision, Kinga's murderer had been released. Despite urgent appeals, nothing could be done. Ian moved to a town in Alsace, began living a normal life, and remains entirely free to this day. He now has 2 children with the woman he had cheated on Kinga with and leads a comfortable, prosperous life, unashamedly visible to the world. Griffin, 47, who developed a severe neurological condition in prison, stated that he could not discuss the terms of his release, but spoke enthusiastically about his business opportunities. He also said the murder case had ruined my life, my reputation, my work. Griffin told the Mail, "Every night I go to bed and I think, why me? I have to put my mind somewhere else. It's a terrible thing that happened to me." During his 5-day trial, Griffin said he went into black hole of memory loss caused by alcohol and antidepressants at the time of the murder. He had told the court that he wanted to apologize to Ms. Legg's parents, saying, "To think I could do that to the girl I love, that's killing me. I have been through every regret, every emotion. I would give my life for hers tomorrow," but prosecutor Philippe Couroy said he failed to believe any of the versions Griffin offered for the murder, saying the case was a classic one of violence against women. The prosecutor also dismissed suggestions that Griffin, a confessed love cheat, was a successful businessman, saying he had no official income and lived off his girlfriends and wealthy parents. Asked how he thought Miss Legg's family would react to his release, he said, "I don't know if they know. Nothing in the world would make me feel better than to make Kinga's parents feel better, but I can't." The story of Kinga Legg is one of ambition, wealth, and the dark side of passion, a cautionary tale about trust, betrayal, and the consequences of blind love. From her humble beginnings in a small Polish village to the heights of international business and the glittering world of high society, Kinga's life seemed destined for success. Yet, beneath the glamour and luxury, danger was always closer than it appeared. Her tragic death at the hands of someone she once trusted reminds us how swiftly fortune and love can turn into fear and loss. Even as justice was eventually served, the long delay, legal loopholes, and Ian Griffin's eventual freedom left a bitter aftertaste for those who loved her. Kinga's family and friends continue to honour her memory, celebrating her entrepreneurial spirit, her determination, and the bright, ambitious woman she was. Her story serves as a sombre reminder that wealth and social standing cannot shield anyone from the vulnerabilities of the human heart. Though the legal system could not fully restore what was lost, Kinga's life and the lessons it carries remain unforgettable. Those who knew her remember a woman of courage and vision whose legacy lives on in the business she built, the lives she touched, and the story that continues to shock and caution the world. Kinga Legg may be gone, but her story endures, a testament to brilliance, ambition, and the tragic consequences of misplaced trust. Thank you for listening to this story. Take care, and until next time.